Welcome back to Chapter 4, Part B. Our most wonderful story today. Okay. Let me just get myself in the right spot. Basil, this is Tom speaking. Your assignment will be at the Palace Cafe your father owns. Strangers in town eat there, and what they say may be news to people who live here. Seth, your mother is the biggest gossip in town. It'll be your job to report the gossip. Jamie, your mother runs a boarding house, so you listen in to what everyone says. Report anything that is news. Danny, your father owns the barber shop, and barbers hear a lot of things other people don't know. Your assignment is to find out what those things are. Sammy, your father gets into more arguments than any man in town. It'll be your job to report about any of these arguments everybody doesn't know about. And JD, you will cover the marshal's office and report who was arrested and why. Then Tom stood up and placed his hands on his desk. We got a newspaper to get out by Saturday, men, he said dramatically. You will all report here Friday afternoon, right after lunch, to turn in your news stories. I watched the other reporters swagger out of our barn and then looked at Tom. I don't think Papa intended for you to get out a real newspaper in competition with his newspaper, I said. He isn't going to like it. I know, JD, Tom said, but it is the only way I can convince Papa that I'm old enough to help him at the Advocate. I left the barn and ran all the way to the marshal's office. Uncle Mark was sitting in his swivel chair at his roll-top desk. I was disappointed not to see any prisoners in the 3 cells. Hold on, I'm lisping. Excuse me, I have to fix my teeth. It's a problem grandmommies have sometimes. All right. I showed him my press card and asked him if there was any news about robberies or murderers or cattle rustling. I'm afraid not, John, he said. And then he got me to tell him about Tom starting a newspaper in competition with Papa. Well, I didn't think it was funny, but it made Uncle Mark laugh like all get out. But the next morning, Uncle Mark wasn't laughing because the Aidenville Bank was robbed of more than $10,000 during the night. These robbers didn't ride into town in the daytime and hold up the bank and ride out of town like the way outlaws should. If they had, Uncle Mark could have formed a posse and tracked them down. Papa told us during lunch what a dirty trick these robbers had played on my uncle. Uncle Mark always kept a close watch on the 2 saloons on the east side of the railroad tracks because that was where the fights and the trouble usually started. After the saloons closed, he went to bed because everybody else in town was in bed by then. It was a while everybody was asleep that the robbers acted. They entered the home of Calvin Whitlock, the banker, at about 2 in the morning. They picked a good time because his sister was in Salt Lake City visiting relatives, and his housekeeper, Mrs. Hazelton, went to her own house at night. Mr. Whitlock was a widower who had never remarried and didn't have any children. Nobody in Aidenville locked their doors at night, so it was no trick for the robbers to enter the house. They sneaked into the banker's bedroom and woke Mr. Whitlock. They were wearing long yellow rain suckers and had their hats pulled way down on their heads so he couldn't see their hair, and were wearing masks made from red bandana handkerchiefs with holes cut in them so they could see. One of them put a pistol to Mr. Whitlock's head and motioned for him to get out of bed and get dressed. Without speaking a word, they marched the banker to the Aidenville Bank and made him open the door with his key. Using sign language, the robber with the pistol gave Mr. Whitlock the choice of opening the safe or having his all over the place. Mr. Whitlock decided his life was worth more than the money, and he opened the safe. The robbers tied him to a chair and put a gag in his mouth. Then they put the money from the safe into an old leather valise and left. Nobody knew what had happened until Mrs. Hazelton went to call Mr. Whitlock for breakfast and found the banker's room empty. She telephoned Uncle Mark, who got Frank Colaby, who worked in the bank, to open the front door of the bank, and they found Mr. Whitlock still tied to the chair. "If the robbery isn't solved," Papa said as he finished his telling us about it at lunch, "the depositors of the bank will lose their money." I ran to the marshal's office after lunch and found Uncle Mark studying wanted posters. I showed him my press card, and, in case he's forgotten, that I was a genuine reporter. "What are you doing?" I asked. Uncle Mark looked pretty worried. "Well, I thought I might get a lead from some of these wanted posters," he said. "But I can't find a single wanted man who ever pulled off a bank robbery like this one at night." Well, there's one thing I really liked about Uncle Mark. He never talked down to Tom and me, but treated us just like grown-ups. Maybe they left town right after the robbery," I said, trying to be helpful. "I wish they had," Uncle Mark said. "Well, that would give me a lead. Horses make tracks." And if they had left town, they would have headed for the Nevada line by taking the shortcut over the Fresco Mountains. But I rode out and checked this morning. There are no fresh tracks turning off the road toward the Nevada line. And I checked out all the directions, and strangers who were in town yesterday, they're all still here. "If anybody can identify them, well, how can you catch them?" I asked. If nobody can identify them, how can you catch them? I asked. "Stolen money always burns a hole in a robber's pocket," Uncle Mark said. "I don't want Tom printing this in his newspaper. But I'll just wait until one of them starts spending a lot of money in the saloons, drinking and gambling. I don't want Tom putting this in his newspaper, but I'll just wait until one of them starts spending a lot of money." "What if they don't?" I asked, trying to be helpful. "Then I'll just keep an eye on any strangers or drifters who leave town suddenly and get a posse to track them down," Mark answered. When I returned home, I found Tom at his desk in the barn. I told him what Uncle Mark said. "Uncle Mark is a good peace officer," Tom said, "but he isn't using his head. These robbers are too slick to start spending a lot of money in town, and too smart to leave town until things cool off, so no suspicion will be attached to them. And I don't believe the robbery was pulled by any drifters or strangers in town." "Why not?" I asked. "Because the robbers took too much care in making sure they couldn't be identified," Tom said. "They didn't even speak, which means one of them, or maybe both of them, are afraid Mr. Whitlock would recognize their voice." "Well, they sure weren't Mormons," I said, "because Mormons don't go around robbing banks. And they sure don't live on this side of town because everybody living west of the tracks are law-abiding citizens." "Good thinking, J.D.," Tom said. "Well, that just leaves somebody living in the Shepman's Hotel, or the rooming house on the other side of the railroad tracks, which means they must eat their meals at the Palace Cafe, or in the oh my. Hold on, guys. Feeling a little dizzy right now. Water. I am not starting over. It's already been 10 minutes. Reading with Granny. Enjoy. Oh, maybe high blood pressure. How many pages are left? Oh shit! I don't want to read all this. Oh my god. Nah, man, this book had. Oh, not this. Sure does have a lot of pages. Mommy. Looks like Grandma might be too weak for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pages. How many have I read? Alright, people. I'm trying to find my space again in the book. There's 8 pages left and I can't do them. We're going to finish this little bit. Or I know what's happening. My temperature has... Maybe when I turn on the air conditioner I'll start feeling better. Okay, here we go. Up. Oh, don't get dizzy, boo. Alright, so we just took this sometimes. Why not? They took too much care and nobody noticed. They're not Mormons. That's right. They're on the south side of town, right? That gives me an idea. Go get Basil. No, got no news yet, Basil said, as we entered the barn. I sit in the corner of cafe and listened to customers for supper last night until 8 o'clock. Hear no news. I think the men who robbed the bank must eat some of their meals in your father's cafe, Tom said. As one of my reporters, it'll be your job to listen to the customers without letting them know you're listening. How can I do that? Basil asked. You could hide behind the counter in the dining room where your father keeps his pies and cakes and things, Tom said. You can listen to what the customers say without them knowing it. Well, maybe Papa don't let me, Basil said. Show him your press card and tell him you work for me, Tom said. Tell him that it is part of being a 100% American boy. Don't shake your head too much. Alright, we're going to stop here, boo. We're going to stop here. I can't even move my head without getting dizzy. Funny chickens, man. I just wanted to have some fun, and God has other plans. We're going to lay down for a while. See you for part C.